everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the second iteration of this video series that I have been wanting to do for way too long. It has officially probably been exactly a year or more since I did my previous one, my very first one of these videos, which is where I read booktubers' favorites. Last time I read Reagan from Prue's Projects, some of her favorite books, some of the books that I really relate to her whenever I think about her, like Brandon Sanderson and The Lies of Locke Lamora, and it went over pretty well. I really enjoyed myself during that one. This go around, we are going to be doing Joel from FictionalFates' favorite books from 2020 specifically, because he does not have a specific video up on his channel about any of like all-time favorite books. The only video that he has up that talks about like really favorite books was his favorites of 2020 video, which is awesome, and I'm very excited to read the books that he mentioned on there. So when I was watching that video, I went in thinking he was going to talk about City of Brass, because that is like the one book that I really equate with him for some reason, because I really enjoyed his City of Brass reading vlog where he read all three of the Daevabad trilogy books, but it was not one of his top favorites. It was like an honorable mention. So I was very intrigued by all of his favorite books. So I have 4 books planned to read for this video. Number 1 is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Number 2 is The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson, I think is her name. And then I have the 2 audiobooks. I have one audiobook for Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas, as well as These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I am so excited about all of these books because for various reasons, they've all been on my radar very recently, especially The Poppy War. I've had this on my shelves for way too long and I need to read this. So I'm very excited to pick this up, and I think this is probably going to be the first one that I pick up. I am ready to dive in to these incredible fantasy books, sci-fi books, all around goodness. So if you're ready for this video, stick around because it's going to be a great time. Hello friends, Editing Jenna popping in here. I lost a clip of footage where I discussed my beginning thoughts on The Poppy War. So this is very jarring, but the next clip is me wrapping up the book and finishing it. And I don't think I explain it very well how I really thought about this book from the get-go, but the beginning of the book, I remember really liking it because you have that academic setting where you're growing with Rin in part 1 and you're learning a little bit more about the world and you're attaching yourselves to characters and you're kind of seeing the seeds of how ruthless Rin is, all in her experience at the school. I am just realizing, because I'm looking at the clip on my computer, I'm wearing the exact same sweater in this clip and my hair is styled the same way. That's wild. So my thoughts on the beginning of the book were I was liking it, but I wasn't really attached to anything. The characters that I liked, I wasn't really super into Rin because she was kind of cruel in a way that she really didn't need to be, and her thoughts were a little harsh, but I really liked her teacher and I really hated him too. But Zhang, her mentor that she ends up with, he is such an interesting character and I wish we got to know him more in this book. And I really enjoyed him, and I really enjoyed his aloofness for the first part of it, because it just makes him out to be this complete crackhead, which he is not. Oh, I love that about it. But part 1 of this book was really interesting. The story doesn't really get started until you get into the military-esque aspect of this. So maybe the school part needed to be shorter. I have no idea. Still weeks after I finished reading this book. But yes, that was mainly my main thing, was that the beginning was intriguing. I was intrigued and I was ready to keep going. I was listening to the audiobook as well as reading it physically, and I think that really helped because it was pretty dense. And I was actually surprised how little the opium had to do with this narrative at the point, because I had been made out to believe that Rin was a druggie and opium ruled this whole book and this whole narrative, which it kind of does by the end, but not in the way that I thought it was going to. So I was surprised by that. That was the kind of feeling I was getting that I lost the footage for. So I decided to kind of pop in and give you that, because I didn't do a fantastic job of explaining it in this next clip. So let's keep going. Hey friends, it's been a hot second, but I decided to pop in because I just finished reading The Poppy War. It took me too long. It took me way too long, but it's done, and I have thoughts, but they're all so muted with it's not an emotion of like I don't care, but it's like very close to that. It's like a disconnect. That's probably the best way to explain it. But I have yet to put this through my rating system, and maybe I'm just disappointed about the fact that I didn't really latch on to any characters in this book. Like across the board, this is a brilliant book. Brilliant. But there are little things that did bother me, like super obvious stuff that I was like, is Rin so stupid that she can't infer this one thing? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like she's an educated person. She should be able to infer this kind of stuff in certain situations. And that really bothered me, just like the choices, because that felt really out of character too, because Rin is very smart. She's very intelligent. I was also led to believe that Rin developed like a super strong drug addiction in this, and she doesn't. There's really nothing, like the drugs are just on the back burner. So I don't know. I mean, the drugs obviously play a super strong part because of all the use that they need, like the psych need to use and all that stuff. You know if you've read it. But yeah, I don't know how to feel about this one because it is such a brilliant book, but I just didn't fall in love with it. I feel no urge to pick up the next one, and I hate when that happens with books because I was looking forward to this so much. This was on my like 5-star prediction list. I was like, this is gonna be exactly up my alley because it has that, like at the beginning, like the school setting and then like the war setting in the back, and it was supposed to be really dark. It was pretty dark. Don't get me wrong, it was disturbing in points, but I don't know, I felt so disconnected. I loved the writing style, I loved the story, I love the concept, I love the world, like all of that gets 5 stars. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I really don't know. I think I'm gonna sleep on it and then rate it in the morning, throw it through Copile and see how it comes out. But that is that. That is the first book that I've read for this video, which is exciting. Another exciting thing is that I got an email from HarperCollins this morning that basically gave me an option for another book for this video because one of Joel's favorite books of 2020 was Witches Steeped in Gold by Shannon Smart. And it's being released in May or something, like it's not being released yet, and I have it on pre-order. I was so excited for it because it sounds amazing. And I got an email this morning from HarperCollins basically giving me access to like the NetGalley arc, and I'm so excited. So I have that one, and I have The Space Between Worlds in ebook form, and Scribd restricted my audiobook access to Cemetery Boys and These Violent Delights until the 8th, which is tomorrow, so that'll open up again tomorrow. But I think for the rest of today, I think I might read The Witches Steeped in Gold. I really want to get to Cemetery Boys because I'm really interested in that one. So if I don't get to These Violent Delights in this video, that's fine. If I want to, it's there for me to do, and then I'll have read 5 books for this video, but I'm super pumped about Witches Steeped in Gold, and I'm so happy that I got access to it because I felt like recently, this past like week and a bit, just thinking about picking up this book made me feel so sluggish and tired. Even though when I'm reading it, I'm like enjoying it and I'm engaged. I just didn't want to pick it up this week, so it's already March 7th, and this is the first book that I've read in March. So I'm hoping to kick that in the butt, and we're gonna start with a YA fantasy that I am so excited about. Let's go do that. But yeah, I'll keep you guys updated. I don't even know what day it is. Thursday. I'm here. A little bit of an update, a reading update, because last night I ended up starting The Space Between Worlds. And I ended up getting the audiobook. I was scrolling on Audible because I had a credit that I could use, and I listened to the little sample of it, and that narrator is so good. Oh man, she was so good. So I was like, yeah, we're gonna get this. And I think when I stopped listening to it, I had 3 hours left at the speed that I was listening to it at, which was I think 1.6, something around there. So hopefully I'll be able to finish that today. But oh man, am I loving this book.
It is so good. I have no idea what's going on. I'm very confused because it is sci-fi and it deals with parallel worlds and parallel universes. I'm excited to see where it's going, you know? Like, it has this whole storyline that we went through in the middle, or right in the beginning, that I was like, we gotta be nearing the end of the book if this is what the storyline is gonna be. If there's gonna be something intense that happens on this other Earth. But no, it was like halfway through the book. I am intrigued by the ability to jump from world to world like she does. And why it doesn't kill her, I think it has something to do with what the person on the other side, Dell, is doing, like with the frequencies. I also find it really interesting that they keep saying that they've never seen traversers? Traversers, that's the word. They haven't seen traversers from other worlds in their own world, but they just assume that they just haven't caught them. But there's also been a mention of like, what if it's just not real on any other world? Because this specific creation was created by somebody that has to be in a specific situation in his life that he might not be in any other world, right? It's really cool and I'm enjoying it a lot and I love the characters, so I'm having a great time. I've started also Witches Steeped in Gold. I'm a few chapters in, I do believe, but I need a time where I can just sit and read it because it is on a screen, so that's really hard to do at the end of the day after I've been staring at a screen for so long, you know? I'm enjoying myself immensely. These books are all really, really good. I can totally see why Joel has them on his favorites list of 2020. I look very rough this morning, so I'm gonna go shower and start my work day, but I just wanted to update you on my reading of A Space Between Worlds because it is so good and I need to find myself a copy. Anyways, I will update you when I am done A Space Between Worlds. I'll catch you then. Happy later Thursday. I'm popping in with an update and the fact that I finished listening to The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. Guys, this book was so good. Oh, it was so good. It was so good because it was one of those books that I love. Like in my sci-fi video that I did where I like did dabbling in sci-fi and stuff like that, I realized that I really, really love when it's sci-fi that's paired with like a really expansive world and really high technology, but we focus it on the human element of it, which is something that like Becky Chambers does. This one did it too. And I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved it. I have to wait a day and a bit to let my thoughts sit with me before I run it through Compile and like rate it, but loved it. I'm ridiculously excited to keep going with Witches Steeped in Gold as well as Cemetery Boys. So we shall see where I get with those. I'll catch up with you later. Just finished reading Cemetery Boys and I'm a goddamn mess. Oh my god, I kept telling myself like an hour and a half ago, I was like, okay, one more chapter and then I'm gonna call it for the night because I know I have to get up early because we're going for like breakfast in the morning, and here I am. It is like 20 to 1 in the morning. No, it's less than that. No, it's 10 to 1 in the morning and I'm a mess. I'm so soft for those two freaking boys. Oh my god, that book was amazing. Oh my god, it was just so good. I need to get myself a physical copy of that book so I can just cherish it forever. Oh man. I just wanted to come in with that little update. I will give you more coherent thoughts tomorrow at some point. But oh, my eyes hurt from crying. In a really bad way and then a really good way. All the ways, just feeling all the things. Oh, it's so good. You guys have to read that book. You have to read it. It's so good. Oh my god. Anyways, I'm also 30% of the way through the arc of Witches Steeped in Gold. And I gotta say, I'm really confused. There's some storyline, there's like some continuity that's not working, but it's like with the main storyline. So I'm confused. I don't know if I just read it wrong originally, but I'm confused. So like, the main girl, Jasmine, one of the main girls, her like whole storyline thing is that she like doesn't want to become her mother's next like sacrifice or something, so she teams up with this other girl who's like a criminal, but that like literally that's the blurb on the back, but none of that's happening. Like it starts off with Jasmine and this group of women planning on killing Jasmine's mother, who's like the doyenne, which is essentially the like empress or queen of this world, but then she reneges on that and she's like, no, I can't, we're not gonna kill her, we have to kill this other girl. But then she goes, I'm so confused as to why she keeps flipping back and forth between it. Like, there's no reason for it. It feels like it's just a continuity error. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm gonna keep reading eventually, but yeah, I gotta say, main sentiment for that one is just kind of confusion, and it's taking me a hot second to like actually get into the book and like sink into it. I don't know if it's the writing style is bothering me. I think also because Jasmine's chapters are like really clinical and like use a little bit of heavier language, so it's really hard to get through, but then Ira's chapters are easier to get through, so I sink into hers, but we keep flipping between the two, so it's just, I'm finding it really hard to latch onto this book. But I'm hoping that changes because it sounds like such a cool story, so I'm hoping that it picks up. Good night.
Hello, my lovely friends. It is now Sunday evening, and I'm here to kind of give a little bit more of a coherent wrap up to Cemetery Boys. I absolutely loved that book. It was so sweet. It was just so heartwarming and heart-wrenching, and all the good things I love in a book. It has been so long since I found a like contemporary based YA book that I've really liked, because I'm 24 and I am sick and tired of seeing 16-year-olds fall in love. That's the main reason, because they're 16. It's not the be all and end all, you know? But this book just was so full of heart and family and finding yourself and accepting yourself is probably the best way to say it, even when you're searching for acceptance among other people. Just is so good. It is so good. And I really, like, the plot was really interesting and it kept me on the toes, and the mix of like that dusting of fantasy on top of it, the fact that Julian is a ghost, just like makes it so fun. And yeah, man, everybody needs to read that book. It's so good. I ran it through Copile and it came out as a really high 4 stars, so I'm giving it 4.5. I am definitely going to need to pick myself up a hard copy of that book at some point, because it's just so good, and you will see it on my channel a lot. Because I'm gonna be recommending it for everything. It is so good. It's so good. That is my statement. It's fantastic. But yeah, we have one book left and I have not yet read it today, so that's alright. We'll see when I get to it this week. Hopefully I finish it up this week sometime. So far, so good with this video. I have loved 2 of the books so far and liked one of them enough. As like an afterthought, I've gone onto Goodreads and like read other people's reviews of books. I do this all the time with many of my books that I read, and I gotta say that the Space Between Worlds, there have been a few reviews that have like kind of hit it on the head of like things that are like could be critiques of it. Like the plot is whack, the pacing is funny, but it was still really enjoyable from like word go, and I think that's because I listened to the audiobook of it, because it didn't like, I didn't get bogged down in reading it at all. I'm in such an audiobook mood right now, so it's just the listening to a story and being completely immersed in it, I think, is what really makes me love books a lot of the time, which is awesome, because there's just a different experience from reading it with your eyes sometimes. Last up is The Witch is Steeped in Gold, so I will catch up with you when I'm about 50% of the way through to tell you of my opinions, and then when that is done, we'll wrap up this video. Hello, my friends. I'm coming in like a week since I've last talked to you guys, and I unfortunately have to DNF The Witches Steeped in Gold book. I am so confused. I'm about 35% of the way in. I gave it a few more chapters just to really see if anything really caught my attention. And I gotta say, I'm so confused. The story is all over the place. Like, the decisions made are like gone back on in 2 chapters from when they're made. It for no reason at all. Like, it's just flip-flopping. It would be so much better and so much better streamlined if you ripped out like 60% of all that waffling and just made it a strong decision, and it's very clear from the beginning what the motivations are. I think that's what's really bothering me, is that there's no clear motivations for what the story even is right at the beginning.
I like the characters, they seem really strong, but the story is just so all over the place. And the prose is a little bit difficult to get through in places. Jasmine's point of view especially, for some reason her prose in her chapters is so dense and so thick that it pulls me right out of the story. And then Iraya, I think that's how you say it, Iraya's chapters, hers are better. I can fall into them more because they're more straightforward. They're very like, this is what's happening and it makes sense. But I just, I can't. It's gonna take me so long to read this book and I just don't. So we are doing an effing it, and because I don't want to end this video off on a DNF, I think I'm going to listen to These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, because I have been seeing it more and more on social media. I saw it like when it first came out and there was that really big boom of like really intense interest on it, and it's coming back a little bit. Like people are starting to talk about it again like it's another wave of it, and people just seem to really like it, or they're really like surprised by how much they like it. So I'm going in with low expectations because I don't really know how much I'm gonna like a Romeo and Juliet retelling, because I don't know if you guys know, probably not, because I haven't really spoken about like Shakespeare or anything like that on my channel. But I am an English major, and going into like, the weirdest thing, I'm an English major and I've never really done a Shakespeare course, but the Shakespeare that I have studied, I really love his poetry. But I studied Romeo and Juliet back in high school and I hated the play. It is like my least favorite play we've ever read. I'm just not the biggest fan of Romeo and Juliet, so we'll see how I like this. I've heard good things. I've also heard a few negative things that people have found like a little bit slow. So we're gonna see, because it is still on Joel's favorites list of 2020. So we're gonna see. We're gonna explore. Hey friends. I wanted to pop in with an update on These Violent Delights. I do realize I'm wearing the exact same thing that I was wearing yesterday. It's fine. It's totally fine. It's Saturday. I'm cozy. It's fine. I am, I think, over 50% of the way through, and everything is just not going my way with my reading recently. I don't know if that's me and I'm just not in the mood for books right now, or what I'm reading right now, but I'm just irritated by like everything I read, because I don't know, like These Violent Delights is good, but it's kind of boring. Like nothing's happening and I'm not really attached to any of the characters. They don't really feel that real. Like Juliet's pretty cool, she's kind of badass, but it just feels like there's a lot of like really like telly that she's badass. And then we get like one scene where she is kind of badass, but in that scene she kind of flails a bit, like when she's running from these tails that are on her and Roma. Like she just kind of flails around a little bit and then ends up killing them all. Like I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I don't know. I'm not really like super enjoying it right now. As I said, kind of bored. Nothing's really like happening. It's kind of slow. Like we're told a lot about the history that her and Roma have, but like when they're together in a scene, there's not really like a whole lot of tension. Like there's tension, but it seems really forced. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. I don't know. Anyways, I thought I'd pop in with that little update that I'm over 50% of the way through, and I hope to finish it today. Hopefully the ending like picks up in some kind of exciting way. Usually endings for me are like the best thing in a book. But yeah, I will catch up with you when I'm done reading These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. Have I even told you guys what this one is about? I don't think I have. Have I told you what any of these have been about? I'm such a bad booktuber. I haven't like explained any of these books, have I? I mean, like I said before, it was a Romeo and Juliet retelling, which it is. It's set in Shanghai. It's like two rival gangs. Both of the characters, Juliet and Roma, are the heirs to the gangs. It's one of those things. And it's like enemies to lovers, but they have like history. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I think that's as much as I've gotten from it, basically. So there's that. But yeah, I'm gonna go listen to the rest of this book. Hopefully my mood will change and I'm not as like snipey snarky next time I talk to you, but I'll catch with you then. Hello, my friends. It is now a little bit later and I'm popping in with an update. I finished These Violent Delights and it was okay. It's just okay. I will renege one comment I made about Julia's character, about her being like badass but only like told that she was pretty badass. She did become pretty badass but also like really ruthless. I think I've come to realize that I don't like ruthless characters. I'm trying to think of another ruthless character
that I like liked, and I'm unsure. It's fine, I guess. The ending was better than the rest of it. It did pick up in action and things happening. The moments we had between Roma and Juliet got a little bit tensiony, and it was a good time. It was enjoyable. I don't love it. I think that's the issue. I didn't love it, and that's totally fine. I haven't yet run it through Compile. I usually leave it a day and then run it through Compile, but I did want to finish this video here, so I'm gonna say it's probably around a 3-star. I enjoyed myself during this video, at least for the most part. I did read some pretty good books, and I don't think there was one besides Witches Steeped in Gold that I like absolutely didn't have a good time reading. Like, I had a pretty good time reading The Poppy War, even though it like wasn't a 5-star book for me. I recognize that it's a really great book, and that's awesome, and I'm really glad that I finally read it because it's been on my TBR for so long. And then I listened to The Space Between Worlds, which was super enjoyable and kind of like fun and like multi-universe type of situation, which I really enjoyed. And then I listened to Cemetery Boys, and that was so good, you guys. Ugh, that one was really good. That's definitely the peak of this entire video. And then, of course, DNF'd, which is Steeped in Gold, which is so sad. It's just because I was confused and that the storyline was all over the place. Motivations weren't clear, and like decisions were made that flip-flopped on themselves within like chapters. Just flip-flopping on stuff for no reason at all. So that's why I DNF'd that one. And then These Violent Delights was good, I guess. Like, it was well written. The characters, I didn't really attach myself to them very much, but like, they were characters. And I recognize why people like it so much. Like, it did have that like slow burn, dramatic thing between gang members with history. Like, I can see why this is on Joel's like favorites list. I can see why all of them are on Joel's favorites list, except for Witches Steeped in Gold. That one, I don't know, unless it gets like 800 times better in the last chunk of the book, 60% of the book or 70% of the book that I didn't read. But that's okay. We gotta DNF books sometimes when we're not enjoying them, you know? Don't force yourself through them. So thank you so much for joining me on this little adventure, for reading another booktuber's favorite books. This one was Joel from Fictional Fates and his favorite books from 2020, which was pretty fun, and I'm glad that I got to explore these books and explore these stories that I probably would never have read. I honestly don't think I would have picked up These Violent Delights without this video, and I'm glad that I did pick it up at the end, even though I was like gonna do the 4 books that I was originally gonna do. If I did not DNF Witches Steeped in Gold, I probably wouldn't have read These Violent Delights. So like, you know, I'm glad that I now know what everybody's talking about when they're talking about These Violent Delights. So that's pretty great. I'm glad that I got to also kind of dabble in like different genres. Like, we had the high fantasy with Poppy War, and we had the sci-fi with The Space Between Worlds, and then we had the like contemporary bits with like These Violent Delights and Cemetery Boys, both with like a touch of fantasy. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down below if you guys have any YouTubers or booktubers that you guys want me to do this for in the future, because I would love to know. I will catch you in another video soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.